From thrifting to thriving, build your own path to financial freedom with Amber Smith. This week on the Extreme Personal Finance Show. All right, I'm excited for our guest today, Amber Smith, who spent years grinding in the corporate world before flipping the script and leaving her 9-to-5 and building her own empire. This is really great. So she's turned her passion for thrifting and storytelling into a full-time career. She's built her personal brand, Amber Waves of Brain, now with tens of thousands of followers across social media. Pretty awesome. She's partnered with big names such as eBay, Casey's, HealthCare.gov, and has been featured in Forbes, The Wall Street Journal, and Business Insider. So I'm super excited to talk to Amber today. It's going to be a wild ride to really see how we kind of blend the worlds of fashion, finance, and finding your own path. Amber, how you doing?
Good. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, man. This is super cool. So you and I met years ago, and we both had our 9-to-5s. We were both doing some side hustle stuff. But you took that side hustle of like reselling to like the next level.
I did. It has grown so much. I met you 5 years ago at Camp Fi. I don't even know what my numbers were back then, but it has taken off.
That's amazing. Well, I want to start kind of, your humble beginnings, like why you started doing this. And then I really want to know, like, what was that aha moment like, this is working? So start all the way back in the beginning, right? So you got your 9-to-5, you're working in tech, and now you have this side hustle where you're thrifting and selling stuff. First of all, why did you get into reselling? Like, have you always been that way?
I had occasionally sold things on Facebook Marketplace. It really started when a friend had gotten into this and she said, I think you would like this. And I was like, I do enjoy making money. So originally I was working my full-time job making $57,000 a year. And I wanted to get my MBA that my company wouldn't cover. I could get a scholarship, but I was like, okay, to pay for the rest of it, I don't want to take out debt. Let me just side hustle to pay for it. Finished my MBA, paid cash for everything from flipping Patagonia, Lululemon, nothing crazy. And at that point I was like, well, I'll just continue it. I'll save money to retire early. Invested basically everything I was making. And it continued on. I was working in tech. I got laid off twice within a year.
Wow.
And both times the side hustle had, sustained me through those periods of unemployment. And so working my last corporate job, I was like, I miss being unemployed. It sounds so awful to say that because no one wants to work these days. But I was working on my side hustle of reselling and then doing the social media content side of things, not at the level I do now, but I was in complete control of my free time and I really enjoyed that. So I was having a tough time at work, just really not enjoying it. And I would spend so much time thinking about should I take the leap? Should I quit this job that I started less than a year ago? I hadn't even given it a full year, but I was like, this is not how I want to spend my time.
Sure. So
yeah,
let's
2 weeks.
That's crazy. But let's back up a little bit too. I just want to know a little bit about how and why at such a young age you were thinking about retiring early. Because most people your age at that time, that's the furthest thing from their mind. But
Right.
Is it because of the layoffs, or why did you start to think that way?
So this actually goes back to college. I needed a summer internship and I happened to get one in financial planning. It's not that I was super passionate about financial planning, but I was the treasurer for my school's entrepreneur club. They gave me $12. This was very little money that I had control of. But that experience translated very well to financial planning in the real world. So that's why they hired me. And my manager at the time, she was like, if you have any free time during the day, feel free to read financial articles online. And I was like, oh, okay. and I stumbled across some article that mentioned Mr. Money Mustache and, read through some of his posts and some other blogs. And that's when it kind of like clicked of, oh, I don't have to do this forever. And 4 days into that internship, I opened a Roth IRA
Oh, I
because
love it.
this is important.
I love that. That is so awesome. That is so awesome. So you kind of talked about again, like what the final straw is, where you're like, okay, I'm done with this corporate life.
Yeah.
When you left your job, like, what was that biggest mindset shift to like, okay, I'm not gonna just survive. I'm gonna thrive on my own terms. Like, what was that like for you?
It was crazy. And, quitting and then going full time into reselling and content, there's not like some big switch of like, oh, all of a sudden I'm making, exactly however much money I want to be making. You do have to build up to it. And I quit my job mid-February. Like winter is typically pretty good for me in terms of reselling because things like coats and boots, those sell for more money than summer apparel like shorts and flip-flops. So going into summer, like I paid my taxes. I did have months where my expenses exceeded my income, but I had built up an emergency fund, which I ended up not even using. Like I had other money in my checking account. So, like, having the fire background really helped me out because I knew exactly what my expenses were for a full year. And I did have one friend ask, she was like, do you think you've had to change your lifestyle in
Mm-hmm.
those first few months? And I was like, I don't really think I'm depriving myself of anything. Obviously, I knew that I could scale back the amount I was investing because I was going so hard. But now I'm at a point where both of them have grown so much. And last month I made over $10,000 between the two. Actually, like $13,000, which I
Wow.
never made that at my full time job.
Sure.
And even though I have officially hit Coast Fi, I'm like, I can't spend $13,000 in a month. So, like, I'm still investing. And, but like hitting
Let, let,
Coast Fi and
let's be
realizing
honest. Let's be honest, though, Amber. If you really tried, you could spend $13,000 a month.
if I planned like a really bougie vacation of like everything's a 5-star resort, I
Sure.
could. But like living my day-to-day life here
Yeah.
in Iowa, my rent is below $800 a month.
Wow.
My car is a Ford Fiesta. I get like 40 miles a gallon. I'm not spending a ton on gas or food. Just Iowa's low cost of living.
Sure.
So a lot of those like basic necessities, like saving money on those.
Got it. Got it. So before we really get into like, I'm excited to learn like really building up a full-time reselling business. If a lot of people dream of quitting their job.
Yeah.
And so, you kind of had a plan, right? You had an emergency fund that you were building up.
Mhm.
I guess what are a couple of those practical steps for others that are like, you know what? Someday I want to leave this job. What are some, I guess, words of wisdom you can share with them listeners?
Yeah, I think like a good like hard step is figuring out your expenses for a year and then how much money you would need to make to cover that. So some people, if they have like a really seasonal business, they're like, oh, I set up at farmers markets all the time, but then in winters, like they're not making any money. Figuring out like, okay, how much do I really need to make to get me through those slow periods? That was really important because when I looked at how much my side hustles had been making and how much I was spending, there was a gap that I was like, okay, I need to, make more money to cover that. But with an extra 40 hours a week, I was like, I can do that. Um, Part of it is believing in yourself. A lot of people are so afraid, and I mean, I was so afraid because both times I got laid off, people are like, what if you just resell full time now? And I was like, well, I finished my MBA recently. Like, I want to get some use out of that. And I didn't feel ready because I had been pushed into the situation as opposed to choosing it myself and really thinking through everything ahead of time. But honestly, like there are so many people that I talk to. They're like, "Oh my gosh, how do you do it? Like I want to quit
Hmm.
my job so bad." But then they're not building their side hustle.
Sure.
And so like you really have to be serious about it. You really have to hate your job.
I just thought of something just like nuts and bolts wise because I just got off. I had a call yesterday with my broker to help me look through new insurance plans for healthcare.
Yeah.
So I know that my healthcare, my plan went up $189 a month. So I was
Wow.
going to ask you, like, what uh, was that a shock to you, like getting your own healthcare, or what do you like? What was that like for you? Were you scared? You afraid? And then it was like,
Yeah. So I knew that I could go on HealthCare.gov and pick a plan. And at the time, obviously, there's a lot up in the air right now about what health insurance is actually going to end up
mhm,
doing. But at the time, they had subsidies if you thought you were going to make under $60,000 a year. So for the first couple months, I was like, let me be like very conservative with my estimate in case this all like blows up in my face. And I was getting like a $30 credit a month. And then as the year went on, I was like, okay, let me adjust my income in there. And it went up to like $260 a month, which, if that is the price of your freedom, I'm willing to pay that.
yeah,
Now, I am young, living in Iowa, don't have any dependents. So, if you have dependents who are on your health insurance living in a different state, obviously it's going to be different. I did poke around in what it would look like for next year. And I was going to change plans anyways. I'm currently not on a high deductible plan, so I can't contribute to an HSA. But I was like, okay, I'm really not using much. I should switch to a high deductible plan, contribute to an HSA while I can. So that's kind of my plan for next year. I didn't see anything too crazy in terms of price. I don't expect mine to go up more than $80, but
got it.
who knows about the following year and the year after that.
Yeah, yeah. Mine, single guy, not reasonably healthy. I mean, but yeah, like my healthcare premium was like $319 a month, and then now it goes up to I think like 460 or something like that. And it's interesting. I was just talking with my uncle who retired early at 55. And
Okay.
that was, he was talking to me. He's like, "Hey, how did you do this? Where did you go?" And I'm like, I showed him HealthCare.gov, go and review what plans, and if you want, you can talk to this broker. And that's the biggest, I think. You can always do it yourself, but that's one thing I think that is misunderstood. Going through a broker, they get paid from the insurance company regardless, right? So it's like a flat fee for them. So just it's not like you're going to be paying more for your plan going through a broker.
Okay. Good to
So
know.
yeah, it's good. I mean, that's where it's like if you just want to talk to somebody, have questions, they get access to the same plans, and you're gonna pay the same, which is,
Okay.
I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. So now you have an advocate on your side. Anyway, but yeah, it was funny. I was talking to him, and he's like, yeah, my plan. He pays like 900 and some dollars a month, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like mine's under 500 now. And he goes, you must have really crappy insurance. I'm like, it's all relative, buddy. Like I don't know.
It depends on what you need.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I am curious because you and I talked about when we were reselling. Because at the time I was reselling on Amazon, so I was selling different types of products. You really got into like the secondhand, like fashion space, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
I guess. Do you feel as though I'm like, did you have a passion for that, or did you find out that that's just where the profit potential was?
I think it's a combination of various things. I do enjoy the sustainability aspect, but I am in it for the money. It is really nice when I can get something at a garage sale for $1 and sell it for $50 online. And part of it is also like it is fun because there is that treasure hunt behind it, and so I do look forward to that. And like there was no fun in my corporate job. Like I was not looking forward to any meetings.
Yeah, I get to go to the production meeting.
Yeah, yeah, no, it was never like that. So the fact that like this now does have the fun in it is great. And something I didn't expect because I'm like also posting content of Thrift with Me in Iowa. I have a lot of local people who follow me, and probably like 4 times a week, people come up to me at thrift stores and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I follow you. I love your videos." And that
That's
is
awesome.
always so nice to hear. But I never like expected that when I started all of this. So that's
Well,
been
and
really nice.
that's going to help keeping you motivated and keeping you going
Yeah.
forward. I mean, even just when I post my personal finance content, you know, once in a while I get those people that respond to my newsletter or reach out to me on social saying, "Oh, this article was great, thanks." Man, it's just if one person makes it all worth it, It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
What when you first started, you left your 9 to 5, you're going to do this. What were some of those early mistakes or like things that I didn't think about this or something?
I think at the beginning it was just very hard to structure my day and figure out a routine that would work. And obviously, like every day is a little bit different, but to just have some sort of structure of, okay, I'm gonna package my sales in the morning, take them to the post office at lunchtime, like that sort of thing. I remember there were early days where like I would get up, I try to list 15 things a day. I would get up, I would list my 15 things, and it would be like 9:30 a.m. and I'd be like, "Okay, what do I do with the rest of my day?" Because I wasn't filling my 40 hours a week with like all these random meetings that I didn't need to be in. I wasn't spending time emailing people. When it was just me, like I could crank out the work so much faster. And so now it's interesting because I'll get up, I'll like package some sales, I'll go to a workout class at 9 a.m., like shower afterwards, have a nice long lunch, do some work in the afternoon. Like it's a very different schedule than when I was working a corporate job, which I love.
Sure, sure. Do you and I know reselling, I mean it can be, I guess what's the word? Like unpredictable,
Yeah.
right? You don't really know. So I suppose now you can really balance your social media content, right? So it's like if
Yeah.
maybe you're not selling as much here, you can create content. I guess talk a little bit about how you can blend creativity and storytelling into that.
Yeah, some of that is really interesting because it kind of naturally balances
Mm.
out sometimes. So, like I said, over the summer, reselling is a little bit slower, but I found this new store in my area called Where You Been. They do a lot of like Amazon and Target overstock pallets and returns, as well as other random places. So I was finding a ton of good inventory there, and I was posting about it, and those videos performed so well. So making some good money there. And at the same time, eBay reached out of, "Hey, we want to do some brand deals with you." And then they just kept reaching out. "Oh, we want another 2 videos. We want another 2 videos."
Wow.
At this point, I think I've done like 9 videos with them in the past 6 months, to the point where I'll be at like a Choose Fi meetup and someone next to me will be like, "Are you an eBay ambassador now?" I'm like, it kind of feels that way. But obviously I sell on eBay. I use it every day. So like that's something that I want to promote. And at the same time, like people are watching these videos and they're like, "Oh, I learned something new from this. I didn't know I could do that on eBay." So that's been really nice that at that time where reselling was typically going to be slow, I, found a new supplier and
Sure.
the social media was going really well. So now that we're in Q4, a lot of brands have
Well,
money.
listen to you talking all businessy. We're in Q4.
It's the MBA. But yeah, Q4, a lot of brands have money to spend before the end of the year. So I have felt like I'm really busy with brand deals to the point where I don't have to push the reselling side so hard. Where I'm
Interesting.
like, if I actually don't get anything listed today, I'm okay. My bank account's going to be just fine, which is very nice to not feel stressed out about it because I know that, like, at any point, like, if I just put in the work to reselling, like, I can go back to making a ton in sales. So it is nice that every so often I can let my foot off the gas pedal a little bit
Sure.
and kind of coast.
Right
So,
on. Well,
yeah.
I definitely want to get into that piece, but you mentioned again, finding that inventory. I guess share a little bit on like how do you source your inventory? Where do you find most of the things you sell? And then, I guess are there particular types of things you always look for?
Yeah. So when I started out, I would mainly sell Patagonia fleeces. They change their prints every year. So, after a certain amount of time, you can no longer buy whatever fun print brand new. You have to buy it secondhand. So I was buying them online on this site called Curtsy, which was mainly just young girls clearing out their closets. They weren't resellers. They were just trying to make 20, $30. I'd buy them there, sell them on Poshmark for like double the price.
Wow.
That was my really early days. Obviously, there's only so much of that you can do. It's hard to scale because there's only so many people listing them. So then I got into thrifting to source. And at this point, there are thrift store cashiers who know me. And, sometimes I'll go to a bunch of different thrift stores. And sometimes they'll be like, oh, I haven't seen you in a while. Like, what's up? And I'm like, oh, I've been going to these other places. So that's kind of fun. They're like my unofficial coworkers.
Sure.
A lot of thrifting in the summers. Garage sales are really nice. And I love a good church rummage sale, which is, I would have never expected like that would be so good. But what makes them so good is they do a lot of like flat pricing of all t-shirts are $2, all sweatshirts are $4. And so if I find something like Patagonia or Lululemon that I know I can sell for 40 or $50 and I'm only paying
Wow.
$4, it's great.
Wow. I had no idea clothing, the secondhand clothing market is so profitable.
It is, yes.
That is so crazy. Do you do any sort of hard goods? Do you do anything else like other things that you sell?
I've dabbled in so much stuff. At this point, if I go to say Where You Been and they don't have really any clothes there, I'll look through the hard goods and see if there's something else. I picked up a tuba holster recently if you're carrying your tuba, it's a little sling for it.
Sure.
Well, for $50. And I'm like, this is so random, but I guess I'll keep an eye out if I see another one.
Wow. I know. I follow. I've got to meet at the Unconference down in Florida. Uh, I got to meet the couple Flea Market Flipper. So if you're familiar with, are you familiar with them?
I do follow them.
Yeah, the couple. They're super cool. But yeah, now I've been following them, and some of the things that they find and resell are huge. Like they'll find giant pieces of like machinery and equipment where they got to build their own like crate or pallet. Yeah, I know. But they're making $10,000 or something. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. See, and that's the thing. Like, there's something for everybody. Personally, if I have to build a shipping container for an item, I'm not going to pick it up and buy it.
Sure.
But if you have the room to store that kind of stuff and you're like, yeah, I'll put this together for like $2,000, then good for them.
Yeah. Are you one that you get the Starbucks and get the Starbucks glass bear like
Oh my God.
cup? Like, are you one of those people too, or no?
No, but looking at some of these reselling prices, I kind of wish I was. But people are so mad when something like that happens. They're like, I can't believe these resellers are like listing it so high, blah, blah, blah. But like at the end of the day, there is a real person behind that account who is really just trying to support their family, pay their bills. And I think like people get so mad about resellers. At the same time, like Walmart's a reseller, Amazon's a reseller. Anywhere you buy something is probably a reseller. Like they probably did not hand make that item. They probably sourced it from somewhere else at a cheaper price and then marked it up. But you
Exactly.
don't realize that when you go into Walmart or Target.
Exactly. And people are going to get mad regardless. Like people get
Yeah.
mad at me just because I own real estate. Like,
Oh yeah.
I'm evil because I offer a rental property,
Yeah,
So you're,
which yeah, they get mad, but at the same time I'm like, I'm not at a position where I want to buy a house. I want to rent. And so I
there you
need
go.
someone out there who's a landlord that I can rent from.
There you go. There you go. And one last question about actually reselling, because then I want to get to kind of how you really built your personal brand, which is fascinating to me. But, you know, I have, like, when you and I first met, I was super inspired, and I'm like, I know I had been selling through some other channels, and I'm like, I'm going to start doing this too. And so I started to spend time at the Goodwill or whatever. And is it the Goodwill or at Goodwill? Goodwill.
Goodwill, yeah.
Goodwill. And it was very, I even went to like Marshalls and stuff too, because I would see other people online selling stuff from Marshalls and TJ Maxx. And it was really hard because finding the right brand, finding that thing that you know, and I know it probably gets easier over time. But if someone out there is into this, they want to do better. What are, I guess, some things to get started with reselling clothing?
I would first start out with reselling what you have in your closet, things you
Oh,
don't wear
okay.
anymore. Get into the process of, okay, I photographed everything. Let me see how long it takes to list it. If something sells, like how am I going to ship it? That sort of thing. To figure out if you enjoy that part of the process or can at least stand it if there's money on the line. Because you don't want to go out, spend $200 on stuff that is never going to sell, that you're never going to photograph and list. Um, Especially because it is kind of hard at the beginning if you are a new account on Poshmark or eBay and you have 0 reviews and you're only selling one thing.
Totally.
A
That,
buyer might look at that and say, is this a scam? So even if those first few sales don't make you a ton of money, if they just like get you some reviews and like show you how the process works, that's really good. The way I look at it is you need to run a ton of low cost experiments. So when you're at Goodwill and you find a sweater for $5, okay, you have $5 on the line and however much time it takes you to get that home and get it listed. Whereas if you're like, oh, I'm gonna buy this coat that's $100. Okay, now you have a bit more money on the line.
sure.
You have to make sure it's really gonna sell. And when you look on Poshmark and eBay, there's a way to filter and see how much things are actually selling for. So you don't just want to put in like black winter coat. You want to put in the exact brand. Patagonia, puffer coat, and certain brands like Patagonia, they have a style code on the inside. You can look it up, get the exact name of the coat, put that in to help you get a better idea. And you'll start to see trends of, oh, certain colors sell better or certain sizes sell better than others, which can really help if you're like, oh, I don't know if I should get this, but you know, it's a color that sells really well or it's a size that does really well. And part of that is you just have to do it a bunch to learn all those things. And there are reselling courses out there that can help people. I never did any of those. I followed a ton of resellers online. And what really helped me is they would post, some of them would post weekly, here's what I sold this week.
Mm-hmm.
It would say, okay, I sold these Sorel boots and I bought them for $5 and they sold for $25, but they sold really quick. And so I'd be like, okay, that's good to know that Sorel boots might sell really quick if I find them, but they're not going to sell for a ton. At least that style or that size. So learning from other people, like you can pick up a lot of that for free if you just put in the time.
Right on, right on. That's awesome. And I know, yeah, and I ran into like a huge thing. I don't know if I told you about this. So like, whenever I was selling, I'd be selling product on Amazon and Walmart. Again, new product. And if I got like, I don't know, 1 or 2 left or whatever, I would sell it on eBay. So I had a new eBay account and I ran into the same challenges. It was new. I had very little reviews, whatever. And then finally I had, I don't know, 20 or so sales. I had some reviews. And then I started listing and I listed like 4 different things. And what I decided to do was list kind of at the same time that I have the listing up on Amazon. So I would say, okay, I have 48 in stock of this thing, right? And I did it a couple times, and then all of a sudden eBay locked my account. Like I was frozen. I'm like, what the heck? So I go into the notifications. It's like, oh, I need to provide them all this information, not only about me and my business, but also all of the invoices from authorized distributors that I'm buying my pallets of stuff from, which now it's hindsight. Like I don't have that information. Sometimes I'll just buy it online or I'll buy it retail or whatever. And so now that account to this day is frozen, just sitting there. I've tried to upload so many documents and it never gets approved and I'm spent. So yeah, that's my story with eBay. Anyway, so I'm really excited to hear about how you have kind of crossed over into social media stardom.
You
Um,
could call it that.
so well, you build kind of a loyal audience
Mhm.
across your platforms. What is that secret sauce to really maintaining, your authentic self? I mean, I'm sure that, I mean, that's why brands have reached out to you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what are
Yeah.
your thoughts there?
What is the secret sauce? It really does come to that transparency. And, because early on, I would say, like, oh, I'm reselling to pay for grad school. And people like that. They're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
she's working to pay for her education. Yeah, I'll buy from her, follow her. And then, when I got laid off, people had that emotional connection of like, oh, that sucks. I've been there before, maybe. And, I want to support her. I'm going to shop her sale that she's having. And then, like, oh, she quit her job to do this full time. That's amazing. And I think part of it is people who have followed me for a long time, they've kind of seen that growth. That it's not like I started day one and I was really good at everything and like I knew how to edit videos perfectly. It took a lot of time. I've been posting on Instagram alone for 5 years on my page, but I am honest and I do share more than just reselling. So back in the day, I would like go on a Tinder date and then I'd post a little like recap on my
Oh
stories.
man.
Like, oh, the date was good. Like he showed up late, but traffic was bad. Maybe I'll give him another chance, whatever. And people loved that.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Well, so let's talk about that. So that that fine line between, like, how do you make it sound like, let's say you have like a brand deal, right? A featured post or
Yeah.
whatever. How do you make it not sound like just one big ad? Like, how do you, I don't know. I'm just curious about that.
Okay, sometimes it's hard because some brands they give you a very specific, we need you to talk about all these 5 points and I'll send them a video and they'll say, "Oh, can you add this in too?" And I'm like, "That sounds really weird, but like you're paying me, so you're in charge, I guess." Um and I have gotten better with like responding and saying like, "How about we word it this way because that
Mm,
sounds more like how I would say it." Yeah, I try to think about like when I watch other people's ads. I follow so many influencers just to like analyze their strategy.
sure.
What are other people doing to make ads interesting? At this point, eBay has had me make probably like 3 or 4 videos just about their international shipping program. And it's the same like brief every time of like, oh, we want you to talk about how like this is so great if you're a seller and like we handle returns and everything. And like they're at the same time they're paying other people to make these same brand deals with the same brief. So I'm like, how do I personally make this different? And I have so many different costumes that I have put on for these brand deals for people to watch. And but it makes it so fun and I feel so silly. Like I live with my boyfriend, he'll come home for lunch and I'm wearing like a candy corn costume and I'm like, I gotta film a brand deal. I'm working.
Oh, that's great.
So like part of that is like the creativity aspect is I am in control of that.
Okay.
And when I was doing my MBA, one of our classes was like a creativity class, which, sounds like one of those like fun, frilly classes, whatever. But like I use that kind of stuff so much now of like, how can I make this video that I've done 50 times of this thrift haul? How can I make it different this time so that people want to watch it?
Sure.
And so there's like a lot of like strategy and like analyzing of my data that goes on that I don't think people realize when I am posting of how do I make this better for the viewer.
Listen to Amber. Numbers, numbers, numbers. Business, business. Analyze my data. Um, so let me let me ask you this. So I guess, how do you decide which brands that you want to work with, or has there been brands that you just didn't align with values wise, or something like that?
I had posted on my stories about this recently. So within the reselling world, there are different like software programs that will take your listings from Poshmark and they'll put them on eBay, Mercari, Depop, wherever.
That's what we call omni-channel, Amber.
Okay, thank you. I'm learning here. So there's a bunch of different softwares that do that. There's one that I've been using since like 2021. Very basic, but it's cheap. It does some other stuff. It's perfect for what I need. But I went to Poshmark's conference this summer, and one of the other software platforms, I was talking to them.
Hold on. You went to PoshCon?
It's called Posh Fest.
Oh, sorry. I just made it up. I just made it.
Yes. And so I was talking to like one of the owners of this other software, and they have a very lucrative referral program where if someone signs up with your code, I think you get like 20% of what they're paying per month forever.
Whoa.
Which, okay, if I have like thousands of followers and like get a few people to sign up, that could be some good money. But then I went home and I looked through all of their offerings, and I was like, okay, this is more expensive than what I'm using right now, and it doesn't do as much as what my cheaper version does.
Sure.
So why would I switch just to potentially make money off of my followers? Like, to me, that did not feel good. And so I was like, I'm not going to switch. I'm not going to do that. At the same time, one of these other software platforms, they've emailed me so much. We want to work with you. We want you to do a brand deal with us. And I'm like, I don't use your software. Like, they're like, oh, but just try it out. We'll pay you $300 per video. And I'm like, that is nothing, considering that so much of my followers are the exact people you're trying to target, of the resellers. Like, that's not enough money. Also, I don't use your software, so it feels very inauthentic for me to switch just to make money.
Sure.
So there are a lot that I say no to. Some of them like don't even watch my content, and it's very obvious when they're like, oh, we want you to promote our mushroom coffee, and I'm like, I don't drink coffee, and I'm also not one of those like crazy healthy influencers. Like, you can see how much ice cream I eat if you follow me for a while. Like, that is not me at all. And I think people would notice that, because one of my reseller friends, we had gone out to lunch, and there was this girl that we both follow. She did home decor, and everything in her house is really pink and cutesy. And in this brand deal with Home Goods, she bought this cheeseburger stool to like put in her home, and we're like, that doesn't match. Like, they made her buy that for the video, and we have never seen it again.
Wow.
And like, we both clocked that.
Wow. Well, it is funny too. I mean, even though this little scrappy podcast, I get probably 10 to 12 pitches every week saying, "Oh, this person's got to be on your podcast," and I'm like, "Why?" Like, there's no synergy there at all.
Yeah.
Like, my listeners would not care. Like, it's so funny.
Yeah.
So I guess, you mentioned transparency's a big piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I guess that's the thing that for someone that's just starting out and they're like, wow, this Amber is super rad and I want to do something similar, right? How do I build a personal brand? How do you know that it's right for you? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, there are people I meet in real life who they're very charismatic. I'm like, I would love to follow your life online and, see what you're buying and what you're doing and all of that. But then they don't post. Like, they're just not in it for that. So if you are able to like create some form of content and you're able to consistently do it long enough that you are able to look back and improve on what you have done, then like that's going to take you so far. Even if you're not like the center of attention when you go into a room, like it's not necessarily those people who are always really good online. Some of it is like people who they just get really into the editing and they're doing these like crazy things that like I look at it and I'm like, that would take hours to do. I'm never going to do that. Part of it is that, like, are you willing to learn things that other people don't know how to do? Or are you just posting about something that is so interesting that people don't really care about the editing at all? So there are different ways to approach it, and you just have to figure out what's worth it for you.
Sure. I know sometimes it's kind of like like you mentioned, some people want to spend so much time on the editing or the production piece versus the actual message or content. I know I was recently at FinCon, and I was at a session about all these podcasters that now are going from audio podcast to video podcast. And, at first, so, I'm tracking, right? I'm in this session, and, we're 10, 15 minutes in, then like about 20 minutes in, they were like, yeah, so we had to rent a studio, and then in the studio there's a full-time engineer. Then we have a 3-camera setup with a production booth to switch cameras. Oh, and then this studio is actually we rent it from Cumulus Media, who oversees and I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like you got, and then going through like all of like the costs, it's like, oh yeah, it costs us about, $5,000 a month just to produce our video podcast. I'm like, you just alienated half the people in the room.
Yeah.
Like, you got to realize some people are just starting.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
Anyway, well, so is there something that, I guess, what is something that you wish more people would understand about the work? People think, I know you mentioned it's fun and all that stuff, but it's still work, right? You're still doing stuff.
Yeah.
What's something that you think people should understand?
I will say one thing that I really don't show online is like how much of a mess my office is, like all the time. Because I'm at a point where I have a room in the basement that's my office. I store all my inventory in there. But I'm at a point where my inventory is like just barely fitting in there, but it doesn't make sense for me to go rent a space somewhere else. So I just have clothes crammed into like every nook and cranny that I can. And when I film in my office, I just move all that stuff out of the way.
Well, you should do like a behind the scenes stuff. I think people dig that.
People do like that. I have maybe posted a photo on my story like 1 or 2 times of like, here's what my office really looks like right now. And some people do comment, they're like, oh, I can relate. Or they send back a picture of their office and they're like, mine's also messy. Because sometimes people comment on my videos of like, oh, we'd love to get a tour of your office. And I'm like, I would have to move so many piles of clothes. You have no idea.
Wow.
So like, even though I am really transparent, like some of that I try to not always show. There is this thought of like, you want your content to be brand safe so that brands want to work with you.
Oh,
so some of that is like not showing yourself like excessively drinking or like swearing all of the time. And I used to do these vlogs of like, here's the day of my life, but I'd start them out with, people always ask me, Amber, what the fuck do you do all day? And
I love that.
It was a good intro. People would watch the video. They'd be like,
and
what
it's real. It's real. Yeah.
Yeah. But some people would get mad. They'd comment of like, oh, I don't like that you're swearing, whatever. And then someone told me, she's like, oh, my daughter loves to watch your videos. She's like 10. And I was like, oh, maybe I should stop swearing.
Wow.
So I haven't used that opening in a while. But some of that is like, if the brand sees that my office is like a mess all the time, are they going to think that I am like irresponsible and like slow to respond to emails and all of that? So I do try to also be professional while still being real and authentic. And when I did go to Posh Fest, this one girl came up and she goes, I follow you. And she's like, don't take this the wrong way, but you seem very normal. And I was like, oh, thank you. No one's ever said that to me before. But that's actually like a really good compliment as a creator, that like my content is not like so far out of reach that people are like, oh, this is unattainable to think I could ever do this. Right. So that is like nice to hear.
Right. You mean you don't have a production studio with 3 cameras and a full-time engineer?
I don't. I have no employees. I'm doing this all on my own. Occasionally my parents do thrift something and they're like, here, you can sell this. That's the extent of my employees.
Right. You mean you don't have to say, oh, let me talk to your team. Let me talk. That's the biggest thing. Like I think that's the funniest thing is that, there's certain creators or people like I want to partner with, like I'd love to have them on the podcast, and like I'll reach out and they get back to me and they say, oh, well, let me talk to my team. And I go look and I'm like, you literally have 300 followers. Like, what? I mean, you do you really have a team? Yeah.
Some people are very like fake it till you make it, but yeah, in those cases, like it's pretty obvious that that might
Yeah.
be a lie.
Just be honest. Like, I just what is
Yeah,
so hard with being honest? I don't know. I just think
right.
I know people are probably dying to know which platform is the best.
For reselling or content?
Just the best for
But
reselling, for earning, for, I guess, in your thoughts, is there one that you always focus on first for reselling, or is there one that's better for content creation? You tell me.
yeah, so right now I'll start with reselling. I think Poshmark is the place where people go for clothes. Like that's where I do best. That could also be like the brands that I'm selling. Some people do sell way more on eBay, and eBay is like a close second for me. In terms of content, recently I've actually been really liking Facebook. They're paying really well right now. It is way easier to get views just because less people are posting. And it's interesting because in my early days of reselling, I was doing a lot on Facebook Marketplace. Now I'm doing barely anything on Facebook Marketplace, but in terms of content, Facebook Marketplace is great, or Facebook in general.
Yep.
Because I think with Instagram, that's where all the brand deals are, but there's also this need of like, oh, my feed needs to look really nice and aesthetic, and like, oh, if the content didn't perform well, like people can easily see that. Whereas on Facebook, like you don't have that like grid feed with all of your posts or anything. And so people are just like throwing up content all the time. And I see other resellers. I know someone, he posted he made $19,000 from content on Facebook. But I
What?
scrolled through his stuff. He was posting 10 times a day.
Wow.
So, and he had like a bunch of followers. So, I think if you really put in the work there, you can grow. TikTok, I feel like is also really easy to gain followers, but I don't feel like they've been paying as well recently. And maybe that's just my content. Other people are doing fine. It ebbs and it flows. So that's one thing. I don't put all of my eggs in one basket. But if I was starting out, like just pick one to start with. Just start with one. Don't try to do four at once, would be my advice.
So that's my problem, is I'm doing four at once. Well, because they got tools, right? Like I use Buffer to post and schedule content,
Okay.
and it and you, even now you can kind of fake it out, right? Because the tool not only posts, but you can fake the first comment. You can put that in there too,
Oh.
and so it looks like you're getting engagement right away. And so I don't know. Like I said, I'm throwing it at the wall, seeing what sticks.
Yeah.
I mean, I try to be strategic, but it is super hard. And so figuring out where you're going to get traction. Well, Amber, I'm really excited for you in this journey. I think it's super awesome. Being that I've kind of seen you leave corporate, take this
Yeah.
thing to the max. You've definitely, in my world, you've turned the volume up to 11, which is pretty
Thank
rad.
you.
That's awesome. I mean, what is next for you? You're gonna keep doing what you're doing, but there's got to be, what's the next big thing? There's got to be something awesome. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything in particular. I think personally, I want to grow the content side of things to be making significantly more money than the reselling, because reselling is nice, it's consistent, but when I post something, when it sells, like there's additional work I have to do. If I have to package it up, take it to the post office, hope there's not a return. Whereas with like content, I post it, the work is done.
Sure.
So in terms of effort, like that takes less effort, less time, depending on what it is. So I'd like to do more of that just so I have more free time and can feel like I'm retired. That is really, yeah, I'm not like, I don't know that there's anything. I joke around with people of like, oh, my next career, I'm gonna be a pet influencer. I'm gonna be a real estate agent at some point.
There you
I
go.
do see local businesses posting like, oh, we're looking for someone part time to blah blah blah. And I always have this moment where I'm like, oh, I could do that. That would be fun. But then I'm like, do I really want to like go somewhere and have to work there for a certain number of hours and like deal with
Yes.
customers and get paid like $20 an hour? No, not really.
Once you're in charge of your calendar, once you're in charge of your own schedule, I think it'd be really hard to go back. That's what
Yeah.
I'm discovering after being now retired for almost a year and a half. So
Yeah.
for sure. Well, Amber, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Where can people find more about you and then follow all of your stuff? Where can they go?
Yeah, so Instagram at Amber Waves of Brain _, and then TikTok at Amber Waves of Brain. If anyone knows someone at Instagram who can get me that other username without the underscore, I'd be very appreciative. Those are probably the best two. Otherwise, on Facebook, if you just search Amber Waves of Brain, I should pop up.
Awesome.
But yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time today. I really do appreciate it. I wish you the best of luck in your journey. Thank you, everyone, for following along, listening wherever you get your podcasts, and watching on YouTube. We will see you next time on the Extreme Personal Finance Show. See ya.